There's a lot of focus, no surprise, on NVIDIA specifically, Carter, particularly when a lot of the hyperscalers came out, reaffirmed or moved higher their estimates for CapEx on AI specifically. So, the fundamentals seem to be intact, but armchair technicians will look back to June 20th to a key reversal day for NVIDIA in terms of hitting a new high, then closing on the lows on very heavy volume. As a real technician, Carter, do you think we'll look back on that day and say that was a watershed moment? Because it really did sort of precede the sellout that we've been witnessing since the beginning of July.
Yes, those are very important days. They're key reversal days, and they happen, and you're citing it exactly right, on lows, and the market had one on the low of October of 2022. What it represents is there's a crescendo, either panic selling, which is coming on the heels of selling, in this case, panic buying. Something's going higher and higher, and yet at some point, there's no one left. And then intraday, almost like a child slipping from the chin-up bar, exhausted, out of buyers, no one's left, and it goes down and down and down. We are down substantially. Semi's down some 25% almost as an aggregate, and NVIDIA down. And so in many ways, what NVIDIA says will help encourage the bulls, but we're still so far down, it would take a lot to recoup those losses. My hunch for the market is that the highs are in for the year.
Earnings. I think it's the fact that the AI reassessment is coming at the same time, and you have NVIDIA 25% off its highs, and you have one of these big, exciting sources of energy in the market that got a haircut at the same time, the macro questions were starting. It explains where we are right now. Look, the lows this week in the S&P, just above 5,100. I mean, it's a couple percent above where we were at the lows in April after that pullback. It's still a pretty healthy year-to-date gain. It still seems like we're in this upper end of the range. You still didn't have your full 10% setback. So I think you almost had it in the S&P. So again, it's in the normal range. It didn't happen in an ordinary way, though, and I think that's what has people on edge. That market action globally, overnight into the Monday open, I think it is going to have a little bit of a half-life in terms of people being apprehensive in terms of putting risk back on.
Welcome back. A fresh read from the chips this morning. Taiwan Semi reporting a 45% jump in July revenue compared to last year. That was thanks to strong demand for the company's AI chips. Shares are, they're bouncing around along the flat line here, but a big outperformer on the year.
Okay, one of their key customers, of course, is NVIDIA, and that stock has been whipsawed this week. It's coming off what is its best day this month, but the company has shed about $1 trillion in market cap since mid-June when it was at its highs. Let's get more on that name and a bunch of other semis. Joining us now is Bernstein's Stacey Raskin. Stacey, always great to have you. Let's just start on NVIDIA. Some of the news this week on the delays potentially as a result of sort of design issues around Blackwell. Just give me your take. Is it real, and what's it going to mean?
Yeah, it seems like it's real enough. There's enough smoke there. There's some fire. We've had some confirmation from other folks in the supply chain. Supermicro kind of alluded to it. And so it seems real. It doesn't seem major. Right. It seems like a relatively minor design issue. It looks like they may have already fixed it. We've got maybe a 2 to 3 month delay, I think. What that really means is where people were hoping that real volume shipments would happen in calendar Q4, it looks like it may be Q1. So it's a slight push out. You have to remember, this stuff is difficult to do. So, even NVIDIA is not necessarily immune to it. In the meantime, though, we've had hyperscale CapEx guides that are all still going up. All of those would have incorporated whatever is going on. They didn't just find out about this, because of the news stories. They would have incorporated it. And NVIDIA's got strong demand for their existing architecture, which is called Hopper, and it looks like they're likely increasing production of that to try to backfill and smooth things over until we actually get the Blackwell launching in more volume, maybe a quarter later. But structurally, I don't think it's that big of an issue. Now sentiment-wise, clearly it's impacted the stock. I think the stock's been two things. One was there's just been a general reduction of sentiment on the AI space in general. People are just starting to look at lots of dollars are getting spent. They're wondering about where's the return. So the sentiment wasn't quite as supportive as it had been. And then you have this on top of it, which weighs on it. So, that's kind of what's been going on. But structurally, I don't know that anything really has changed with NVIDIA. Right. We got a little push out. I think it'll be okay.
All right, well, right. Demand is demand. It's still there, as you point out. What about the stock itself and the multiple and what we've seen in terms of that and whether that makes it even more compelling, I guess, from the perspective of somebody like yourself.
Yeah, look, so NVIDIA's never really been all that expensive. I mean, even at its peak, it was maybe 40 times forward earnings. The sell side forward numbers that's based on are likely still too low. 40 times is about its 5-year median or 5-year average, so it's not actually that expensive. It's cheaper now. It's probably 30 times now. Yeah, at least I think you've de-risked it a little bit, like going into the back half on the back of this. And if they do announce some kind of a delay, if they verify it on the call, at this point it won't be. Everybody kind of knows about it. So yeah, we can kind of work through this. Demand still looks really strong. If you're pushing, volume into next year, it actually makes next year look better. Again, more upside to the numbers, hopefully. Yeah, I think the valuation here still looks quite attractive.
All right, let's talk about NVIDIA and the rest of the market. As was alluded to in the clip, you just watched the information recently published an article claiming that NVIDIA's newest platform Blackwell is delayed. We didn't know if that article was true or not, and then this past Tuesday, Supermicro reported earnings. Supermicro's CEO said that they may see some Blackwell chips in Q4 of this year, but they do not expect to see substantial volume from Blackwell until Q1 of 2025. So that may be our answer for now until NVIDIA reports earnings on August 28th. Now in other news, today, we got Taiwan Semiconductor's July revenue report. What does this have to do with NVIDIA? Well, NVIDIA designs chips, but then they rely on other companies, mainly Taiwan Semiconductor, to actually manufacture those chips. Additionally, NVIDIA reports earnings on a fiscal year basis rather than the standard calendar year basis. And so NVIDIA's next earnings report on August 28th should include the months of May, June, and July. With that in mind, TSMC's July revenue report is very relevant to NVIDIA. TSMC reported July net revenue of roughly $7.92 billion US. Keep in mind that TSMC reports net revenue in new Taiwan dollars, and so you have to convert that number from NT to USD, and you get roughly $7.92 billion US for the month of July. This represents month-over-month growth of 23.6% and year-over-year growth of 44.7%. Going a bit further, I actually compared TSMC's July revenue report to their April revenue report because the month of April would be exactly one quarter prior to the month of July. TSMC's net revenue in July was roughly 8.14% higher than in April of this year. This is in line with TSMC's Q3 guidance for quarter-over-quarter revenue growth somewhere in the range of 7.29% to 10.48%. So in short, TSMC is right on track. They're not ahead and they're not behind. They're right on track within the range they guided to for Q3 revenue in their latest earnings report. Now, when it comes to NVIDIA, I think NVIDIA is likely to report a great quarter on August 28th as hyperscalers like Microsoft, Amazon, and Meta are increasing their capex spending on AI by billions of dollars. And I'm not too concerned about a delay in Blackwell. If anything, NVIDIA can just sell more H100 GPUs in the interim, and they will likely have higher guidance for the future quarters in which they expect Blackwell to ship in volume. So long-term, I am bullish on the future of NVIDIA. In the short term, I think anything could happen with NVIDIA stock because I think we are currently in a news-driven market. Like I said in yesterday's video, I'm not going to do much technical analysis on NVIDIA for now because I think NVIDIA's short-term price action will be largely dictated by what happens with the rest of the market. I will say that on the daily time frame, we did close just below the 100-day moving average today. The 100-day MA is the white line on your screen. And we also closed just below the 21-day moving average on the weekly time frame. Both of these developments do not bode well for NVIDIA's price action in the short term. That being said, today was a low volume day for NVIDIA. And again, I really do think we are in a news-driven market right now, and so anything could happen in the short term, whether good or bad. Right now, the market is dealing with fears of recession, fears that the Fed is too late in cutting interest rates, worries about the unwinding of the carry trade in the Japanese yen, concerns about the Middle East. We are in August, which is historically a low-volume month with erratic price action, and on top of all of that, we are in an election year. So with all of that in mind, I am taking technical analysis of NVIDIA stock with a grain of salt for right now, because I really do think that in the short term, NVIDIA's price will be dictated by what happens with the rest of the market. With all of that being said, stay away from anything crypto-related in the comments section below. Unfortunately, we have been getting targeted by a lot of bots recently, so be careful down there. And with that, I hope you all have an amazing weekend, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts about NVIDIA in the comments below. Please leave a like on this video so more people will see it. And while you're down there, please consider subscribing. It's free, and you can always change your mind. Thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video.